The Kia Sorento and the Ford Explorer are both midsize 3-row SUVs. Now, the Kia has got the latest and greatest in technology and a classy interior, but the Explorer's got more room for your crew and all their stuff. So, which one is better? Well, you've come to the right place. The Edmunds team, we drive, test, and rate these vehicles every single day, so we definitely know these SUVs. So we've partnered with CarMax to go over all of the details. We'll talk about pricing and reliability, we'll give you an overview of each car, and we'll even go over a lot of little details that you might miss while you're just shopping online or if you're on a test drive. Trust me, by the end, you're gonna know which one is the best for you. Now, these are both 2023 models, and that's part of the current generation. The Sorento, that was new in 2021, and it got a little update in 2024, while the Explorer was new back in 2020, and that got an update in 2025. And for today, we're focusing on the first few years of this generation. Both of these SUVs can seat up to 7 passengers. They both have the option of a more powerful upgraded engine, and both can be had with all-wheel drive if you live somewhere you need it. All right, let's start talking numbers. Let's go over pricing and reliability. We checked the numbers based on 2023 models sold in the last 6 months. And if you look at all the Sorentos and Explorers, you'll find the Kia is a couple $1,000s less expensive, but there is a lot of overlap. Now, brand new, the Explorer is a lot more expensive, but used models come down a lot. So you can compare these two and pick and choose based on what you want out of an SUV. So it just really depends on what you're looking for. Now, what about reliability? Well, for this information, we go to RepairPal. They are an independent reliability tracker. This Kia Sorento, it scores a 4 out of 5 star rating, while the Ford Explorer, it only gets a 3.5 out of 5 star. So overall, that puts the Sorento at 12th out of 26 SUVs. Explorer, it's only sitting at 19th. But keep in mind that even the most reliable cars have problems. A few of the customer reviews on our site mentioned running into issues with the transmission of the Kia Sorento, so that is something to keep in mind. Now, for most people, we recommend the Sorento over the Ford Explorer, but it really all depends on what you want to get out of or into your SUV. Now, we really like the interior of the Sorento. This is a mainstream car with luxury dreams. Everything in here is just elevated, and that's true on even the lower trims, and it really helps it stand out amongst the competition. Now, of course, looks aren't everything, and fortunately, the Sorento's got even more to offer. If you're big on value, the Sorento was built with you in mind. The base model Sorento comes with a bunch of helpful driver's aids like blind spot warning and rear automatic braking. Going up to the EX trim also gets you adaptive cruise control, a more powerful engine, and a power adjustable passenger seat. Now, with the 8-inch touchscreen, you do get wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but this SX trim comes with the larger screen, and then I lose the wireless part of Apple CarPlay. So basically, I've upgraded my screen, but then I have to plug in my phone. I mean, that's just the silliest thing I've ever heard. But honestly, don't we all get into our cars and plug in our phones anyway? So it's kind of up to you to decide how much of that's gonna affect your day-to-day livability. Now, both these touchscreens are really easy to use, and we like that you've got some physical controls for things like your temperature and your tunes. That way you can keep your eyes on the road. All right, now what about the third row? Well, the Sorento is not quite as long as the Explorer, but there is no compromise here in the third row. I mean, look, I don't want to spend a ton of time back here, but it's not terrible for adults, and kids aren't going to have any problem. Kia makes a really good use of space. This interior feels a lot larger than it is. Now, this carries over into smaller storage as well. I've got a pretty big center console here. It's good enough for my glasses, my phone, stuff like that. Now, the cup holders are big enough to fit a narrow bottom cup, but you got a big bottom one? Yeah, that is not going to work. And the same goes true for the door pockets. I guess manufacturers just haven't gotten to the point that we really love our wide bottomed cups. The second row has got 2 places to store your drinks. Little cup holders near the window that are great for cans, if you're the kind of person with the courage to allow your children to take a can into the second row of your SUV. There's also a place to stow a small water bottle in the bottom of the door. You can also get a pair of car seats into the second and third row. Now, obviously, installing a car seat into the second row is easier than in the third row, but it can be done. The second row seats fold down and slide forward as long as you don't already have a car seat installed in them, and that makes accessing the third row anchors was even easier. Okay, here is the compromise. You get a lot less space back here behind the third rows in the Sorento than you do in the Explorer. So if you're just schlepping your kids to band practice and all they play is that tiny little triangle, not a problem. If you're hauling all your friends to Vegas and all of their gear, that is a problem. The Sorento is actually really comfortable for longer road trips. On our Edmunds testing going over long distances, we found that all the seats were comfortable, including those second row captain's chairs. Those are going to be standard on all except for the lowest two trims, the LX and the S. And these are more comfortable than the bench seats that you would get in other smaller SUVs. Now, both these motors have plenty of power for daily driving. How about fuel economy? It's just okay, and we struggled to hit the EPA estimate when we had a Sorento in our Edmunds one-year road test fleet. We averaged 22 miles per gallon, which was pretty disappointing. Ford sells a boatload of Explorers every year. There's gotta be a reason why. It's not just that Ford helped popularize the crossover SUV craze, because it definitely did. It's that the Explorer also offers a ton of practical utility, but we still would not recommend it over the Sorento, and here's why. The interior, which is a big part of the ownership experience, is utilitarian at best and pretty drab at worst. Now, it would be less of an issue if it were solidly put together, but that's not always the case. In Edmunds testing, we've been disappointed by panel gaps, rattles, and an abundance of hard plastic throughout. We love these ceiling-mounted air vents here. It's really good if you've got kids in rear-facing car seats, and Ford gives you the option of having a panoramic sunroof. Now, a lot of manufacturers, you can get either or, but in the Explorer, you can get both. Now, like the Sorento, we like that the Explorer also has physical controls for the temperature and for the stereo, but we're not quite as impressed as what's going on here with the touchscreen. This is the standard 8-inch touchscreen, and functionally, it's fine. It just doesn't look quite as elegant as what we have in the Sorento. In Edmunds testing, we had just about zero nice things to say about the larger 10-inch touchscreen. Now, you'll know it's the 10-inch screen because it's vertically oriented, kind of like a big old iPad. We recommend you avoid it because it's actually worse at displaying Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and it's no good at displaying camera views that show up just fine on the smaller screen. Avoid it. Thankfully, the tech isn't all bad on the Explorer. The base trim comes with useful driver's aids like blind spot warning and rear parking sensors. You have to find an Explorer with a special technology package to get adaptive cruise control, but all these features work well and are easy to use. Now, this is the XLT trim that's one step above the base, but you still get some pretty good creature comforts, like a power adjustable passenger seat, heated front seats, and USB ports in the second row so all your passengers can get charged while they're on the go. Speaking of the second row, unlike the Sorento, the second and third row of the Explorer are a little cramped, and you lose a couple of inches in that second row compared to the Sorento. The third row, well, we just wish it were easier to crawl into. Now, the worst part is that none of these seats are as comfortable in the Explorer as they are in the Sorento. Plus, we found the ride quality to be worse during Edmunds testing here in the Explorer, and road and engine noise are also more noticeable. But there is a little bit of good news. The Explorer is really nice to drive. The standard engine boasts a whopping 300 horsepower, and that's a lot for a vehicle of this size. And the available V6 is even more powerful. That's great for pulling away from stoplights or passing vehicles on the highway. And if a sporty feeling SUV is important to you, the Explorer is absolutely worth a look. In Edmunds testing, we found the Explorer drives much like a smaller SUV without all the body swaying that you so often get in SUVs like this. Now, even if you don't care about performance, there is still one other reason that you might pick the Explorer over the Sorento, and that is the cargo space. Now, remember we said that the Explorer is about a foot longer than the Sorento, and it all shows up right here. If you fold down these rear seats, the difference isn't quite as big, but the Explorer still wins it. Now, what about car seats and small storage? Well, the rear door opens up pretty wide, and that means it's going to be easy to get car seats into that second row. Now, if you've got a rear-facing car seat, you're probably going to lose a little bit of legroom on whatever passenger is sitting in front of it, so keep that in mind. And getting into that third row can be a problem in a tight parking lot because these doors are really long and you've got some pretty prominent wheel arches. Now, as for smaller storage, there is plenty of room here in the center console for things like your phone, your glasses, little smaller items. I mean, you guys picking up what I'm throwing down, right? And the door pockets, y'all, are massive, so they should be more accommodating to your giant water bottle than what's in the Sorento. Storage is just okay in the second row, and it's not quite as clever as what you have in the Sorento, but that's pretty normal for an SUV like this. So if you're storing stuff, it's the Explorer. If you're storing people, it's the Sorento. So what do you think? Are you gonna go for the stylish and modern Sorento or the added practicality and fun to drive Explorer? Let us know in the comments, and as always, we'll see you back here soon.